forgotten, threw away the key. Gone and forgotten, they forgot about me. Long and forgotten, threw away the key. Gone and forgotten, defund D.O.C. If I was you, I'd be asking for a refund. Everything they do for D.O.C, they need to defund. Lazy guards, double cells, everything in here is hell. You ever been to the county jail praying that you get some mail? Then you hit receive and all the stories, can't believe them. I thank God that I'm alive, I thank God that I'm still breathing. After COVID, wearing masks, everyone's sad. How did a virus know a budget? It really makes me laugh. We had good times, bad times, but still it made us strong. It was hard to be accountable, I had to right my wrongs. But now I'm long and forgotten, they forgot about me.
Welcome to a special advocates and activists discussion about Red Onion State Prison on the Defund D.O.C podcast.
Jen, most of y'all know that are in here, is with Virginia Justice Alliance. She's the executive director. She's one of the leads on the Red Onion matters with Natasha from IHR. But she's going to read the letter from Delegate Siebold that went out, I guess it was today or yesterday?
It went out on the 6th.
Okay, 6th. Okay, we're getting there. But either way, go ahead if you have it up.
Yeah. Dear Director Dotson, I'm writing in response to your recent public statement about the conditions at Red Onion State Prison. While I agree that it is important for more public officials to visit the facility, I believe your suggestion overlooks the deeper systemic issues at play and fails to address the root causes of the problems that persist within the institution. In your statement, you noted that Virginia Department of Corrections has extended multiple invitations to legislators to visit Red Onion and other facilities to observe operations and speak with inmates and staff. As someone who has visited Red Onion earlier this year, I can assure you that my views on the inhumane conditions at this facility remain unchanged even after my visit. The widespread and indiscriminate use of solitary confinement at Red Onion is a practice that demands urgent scrutiny. In my visits to multiple correctional facilities this year, including Wallens Ridge, I observed no other institution where solitary confinement is used as extensively as it is at Red Onion. A significant portion of Red Onion's population is subjected to being locked in a concrete cell for 20 hours a day. For the remaining 4 hours, inmates are shackled and placed in a steel cage outdoors where they are left to stand, sit, or walk in circles. In many cases, inmates have expressed a preference for being shackled to a table in their pod rather than enduring this mandated outdoor, quote-unquote, recreation time. This is not a temporary measure. For many incarcerated individuals, this has been their daily reality for years. In your statement, you assert that Virginia needs secure facilities in which to house the Commonwealth's most violent offenders, and Red Onion serves that purpose. However, during my visits to various prisons this year, I've encountered numerous inmates who expressed fear of being sent to Red Onion, regardless of their offense or classification. It seems that any inmate who is perceived to have violated a rule, however subjective, can be transferred to Red Onion. The lack of clear criteria for relocation suggests that Red Onion does not exclusively house the most violent offenders, but rather anyone who falls out of line, regardless of the severity of their actions. Once transferred to Red Onion, especially to the restorative housing pods, inmates face significant challenges in moving back to lower level facilities. A reoccurring theme I've heard during my visit that was, if inmates in solitary confinement are deemed good, they might be allowed to rejoin the general population. However, the system is flawed, with virtually all rehabilitative programs and services restricted to those not in solitary. The barriers for inmates in restrictive housing are insurmountable. Those in general population have access to GED classes, library service, HABAC training, and outdoor recreation. In contrast, those in solitary confinement receive no such services. However, these individuals are expected to EAM their release or demonstrate positive behavioral changes under such conditions. While I'm not a mental health expert, it is clear that prolonged isolation, particularly when coupled with physical restraint, has a profound psychological toll. The longer individuals remain in such conditions, the more desperate and disconnected they become. It's difficult to imagine how anybody could be expected to reform in this environment. Solitary confinement damages even the most resilient minds. I must respectfully disagree with your assessment that the recent round of stories about Red Onion are nothing more than bad faith efforts to try to score cheap political points by advocacy groups who pursue prison abolition and policies that would make Virginians less safe. The evidence suggests that the current approach, relying on punitive measures like solitary confinement, only make our communities less safe in the long term. Our correctional system should be focused on rehabilitation and preparing individuals for successful reentry into society, not punishing them in ways that leave them broken and isolated. During my visits, I spoke with many inmates who shared how detrimental solitary confinement has been to their well-being. They described the loss of programs, inadequate ventilation, hunger, extreme temperatures, and the absence of meaningful human contact. Given that about 90% of those incarcerated will eventually return to our communities, we must ask ourselves, do we want to release individuals who have been subjected to such conditions? Will they be equipped to reintegrate as healthy contributing members of society? Or will they return more damaged and disconnected than before? I urge you to reconsider the policies that govern solitary confinement at Red Onion and to prioritize reforms that focus on rehabilitation and the humane treatment of incarcerated individuals. I would also like you to commit to encouraging a deeper investigation by the Ombudsman into the conditions at Red Onion, particularly out of respect for transparency. The investigation should encompass not only the incidents of self-harm reported at the facility, but also the broader conditions of treatment of those incarcerated there by the D.O.C staff. Finally, I would like your assurance that the inmates who have spoken out about conditions at any correctional facility will not be punished further. It is imperative that we fully understand the extent of these issues so we can move towards meaningful solutions. Respectfully, Holly Siebold.
Impactful,
Wow.
right? Like, first off, they generally don't write that long, right? I mean, Jen, you've seen a lot of communications. That hit everything we needed her to hit.
Is
And
that
that-
now for the audience? For the audience, can you clarify who exactly that wrote that letter?
That was Delegate Holly Siebold. She has been an ally since she took office.
That's out of in Virginia.
Yeah, Northern Virginia. She is the delegate that carried the K-9 bill this past session to restrict the use of canines within VA D.O.C, which I will add is not being enforced within institutions.
Yeah, they're harassing
Wow.
them with them, threatening them with them. And just to continue with a couple updates of Red Onion, for those that don't know, they brought back one of the persons who was self-harming. For some reason, they had sent him to a regional jail after this happened, and they have returned him to Red Onion. There's a couple advocates working on his specific stuff. We're trying to work on his classification, and we'll have an update hopefully the next time we meet, or a couple updates down the road. But anybody who has Red Onion, so what we're hoping to do is really funnel the advocacy so we don't have so many flooded things that aren't being read, right? There's really serious violations, and we want to get those, we want a Me Too flow. Is this going on, with your loved one at this location? Contact. And for Red Onion, Virginia Justice Alliance, IAHR, Unlock the Box, Virginia Defender is promoting, anything that comes from those groups. Warrior Within, we can funnel to wherever you need. And then Wallens Ridge, that's the sister Supermax. We know that. We know that the same complaints as far as different hunger strikes, stabbings happenings, the mental health crisis. And 40 Strong is doing heading that main advocacy line, and they have a lot of calls to action for anybody with cases for them. Please funnel them that way. River North, people are saying they want to go back to Wallens Ridge, that it is worse than the Supermax. I have a loved one there. There's a call to action with 40 Strong, that an email went out, and they have some direction for you there if you want to check out their page. That's a lot of mental health crisis, men losing weight since they've been there, medication issues, drug issues. Um, I think that's all off the top of my head as far as current crisis. Greenville, that is new to me. I just saw it, but it needed to be mentioned. The lockdowns and a mass abrupt safety transfer for approximately 50 men. We got loved ones that are in crisis mode, not knowing where their loved ones are. They're not updated in the system yet. This ripple effect, I think we need to talk more about what it's doing to our families outside, which means our children outside too, and the mental health crisis that puts you in when you're forced to fight or flight, not knowing where your loved one is, not knowing if they were one that was stabbed or what have you. I also know at River North they had a recent, they said a severe
You have 1
self-harm,
minute left.
and that's Daniel. Anybody who has any Greenville connections, definitely direct them to the Facebook group. There's got to be some kind of, advocacy aligning there as soon as we can make it happen anyway. But that's what's going on there. We don't even know all the different places they're being transferred. We don't know all the whys. And Marquis Bell's in that group. She's I know shared she's willing to give advocacy advice, but what we're really wanting to do is impress upon our groups, our audiences, our people we're trying to help. We need them to start taking a frontline role on their loved ones, and then if then escalate it to our organizations so we can make it even more powerful if they weren't able to get what they needed or they need direction or what have you. And we can maybe work on doing that. I know we have legislative advocacy coming up, but some of these people, some of us, all different walks of life, we need to tell people, you need to get a notebook. You need to write dates, times, who you spoke to, what that email said, who it impacted, all that. So hopefully we can empower them and then send them our way when it's, crisis level, mental health, the nutrition, we know it's all the same concerns. Now, Pocahontas, Marva can tell us a little bit about too. She just got a recent case. And I just want to touch upon this because this is exactly what brought me into the rights of the incarcerated, and that's post-incarceration syndrome. PICS equals PICS, right? So prison, and then I hope y'all can spread some of that verbiage. Prison industrial complex equals post-incarceration syndrome. And we have a man that is there having religious delusions in solitary confinement, believing he's the son of man, having just altered mentation. We don't know the extent of it, but what I do know is I know when that happens inside and I know when that happens outside. And when they come home after experiencing that, there's not a lot of support. I've tried. They cost the Commonwealth over $300,000 in 3 weeks over the crisis. So it matters. It's symptoms of schizoid personality disorder, what he's experiencing. And he has been there 2 months since his transfer, and he's not been seen by a medical doctor at all. So we're going to work on spearheading that. I'll be working with Marv on that. And if anybody has any additional input, cases that are similar, please, Marva is open to receiving Pocahontas complaints. And then Marva, if you'll jump on and talk about that in a moment. There's just a couple more things. I know we don't, well, either way, Maryland, they have they call it a hyper supermax facility. Similar story as Red Onion, meaning in the first year, the complaints were off the charts. First year they opened, between them and the facility that transfers to them, they fired 25 COs in the first year. Well, just a few days ago, Natasha and Jennifer were dealing with a mom who has lost her 23-year-old son. IHR and Natasha were doing mental health advocacy for this young man for months, and they finally got the approval for transfer just days before he was found unalived. They're alleging suicide. Of course, we have a mom mourning, desperate for answers. There's a GoFund set up because they want to get, they were talking about getting a separate autopsy and then just all the expenses that would be incurred. That I'll share that on my page, and anybody, if you can share it, I know Jen probably will. Natasha's probably already got it up. But if we can share that in our groups, if nothing, just for the radical awareness that we've had just another unaliving take place. And I'm sure there'll be more releases about the details.
Missa, could I chime in for a second?
Please do.
Well,
It is on my page already. It's also on Natasha's page. Um,
and
this was not a suicide. There's reports from medical staff that it was not a suicide. So we are really trying to get the family to be in a position where they are able to afford independent autopsy, especially with the results coming in the way they are from D.O.C. at the moment. This kid, and he was a kid, was not even in on a serious offense. He was in on a 3-year sentence, and they stuck him in a supermax.
Yeah.
wow.
Where we talk about, see, in most states, classification doesn't mean a damn thing. I've been doing this 10 years, and talking with that mom the other night came close to breaking me.
Yeah.
It's so sad. We're not even human beings to them. Literally, we're just numbers, and they don't care whether we have family on the street waiting for us to come home. I mean, literally, they're just trying to keep us moving through the pin. We're just cattle. We're a commodity to be extracted as much money as you can from them and as much labor as you can get.
Yeah.
If I can interject here, I just chimed in. I am a prisoner in the Virginia Department of Corrections. I was incarcerated at Red Onion State Prison recently. As I'm no longer there, but I was housed there. So it's my understanding that y'all are doing this show, trying to figure out some of the things that's going on there. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. The violations, the human rights violations, ADA violations, the torture, the whatever it is you want to share, because whatever is brought forward, we want to rally to find out who else can say me too. So yes, please share whatever. Please.
So, now, of course, the problems isn't just limited to Red Onion State Prison. There are equal problems at Wallens Ridge State Prison, which is the twin maximum security prison. In my personal opinion, okay, so I was housed at Wallens Ridge and then from Red Onion. In my personal opinion, Wallens Ridge is worse than Red Onion. Staff there, they provocate you more. I can tell you about some of the things I've seen there. At Wallens Ridge, I have seen the first incident that I've seen was my first week there. I transferred to the facility. They put me in isolation pending classification. And while there, you had inmates asking, it was breakfast time. The inmates asked for, fresh milk. They gave out these little 8-ounce bags of milk, and it was spoiled. You could actually smell it was spoiled, through the bag. And the inmates, they started, they asked for fresh milk. The CO said no. So the guys were saying that, this was the third day it happened. We want fresh milk. And the CO told them no. So the guys started kicking on the door. It was 2 of them. They were kicking on the doors. And the CO told them one time to stop, and they kept doing it. They said, get the supervisor down. So what ended up happening was staff came down. They had, riot gear on. They had, they got the vest on. They got the helmet. They got a shock shield. So they brought in a big mace canister, like it looked like a fire hydrant, on wheels. So they wheeled it in. They opened the guys. They have these slots on the door. So they open up the slot, and then they doused them with mace. Then they opened up the door. They ran in and they shocked him with the shock shield while he's, wet. the guy is screaming out in pain. First he's not screaming, but once he's done, once they finish shocking him, he falls. He's screaming out in pain. So I watched them pull him out into the pod, and it's like you got about 10 to 15 COs. They crowd up on him, and they start beating him. The guy screaming out in pain. They're saying stop, resist. They got the handheld camera on scene watching this, but you got so many bodies in front of the camera that the camera isn't going to see what's really going on. So I'm at a vantage point. I'm above. I'm above where I can actually see clearly, or at least I can see enough of what's going on. So they put the guy's hands behind his back and they handcuffed him, but they're beating him. And meanwhile they're yelling stop resisting, and he's screaming saying I'm not resisting, but they're beating him. He's telling. I hear him yelling, get your stop, get your thumb out my eye, get your thumb out my eye. So they just kept going. It went on for a few minutes. They only did this to one. They didn't get the other one. That was the first incident I saw. The second incident I saw was, about 2.5, 3 weeks later, I had moved to general population. So on this one, I'm looking out my cell window. Now, just a quick note. The cell windows, like they're covered with a film that prevents you from seeing outside, on to the boulevard and stuff. So, my window was on the rec yard, the inmate rec yard. So we had scraped the film off so we can see out. So I remember one day, I look out the window and I see an inmate, he's handcuffed from behind and he's shackled at the feet. And they are telling him now, I can't hear what's being said, but I can certainly see. It appeared to me as if they were ordering him to go through the fence, through the gate, and he was refusing. So they are pointing through the gate door, and he's running off at the mouth, the inmate. And after about 30 seconds, I watched one of the COs punch him in the face. Wow. And again, this man is handcuffed from behind and shackled at the feet. So the man drops. Another CO, it was 2 COs on scene. Both COs started beating him. A third one joined in. They beat the man for about a whole minute before they finished. They picked him up and his body was limp as if he was unconscious. They carried him off. Now, I thought long and hard. Now, I had I heard all the stories about Wallens Ridge. And, I was a little scared at first. You said I'm saying to speak up. But I actually thought if that was me, I would want someone to speak up about it. So what I did was I wrote 3, I wrote the regional office, I wrote headquarters, and I wrote the Special Investigations Unit. Special Investigations is they are like basically what do you call them? Internal affairs.
They're like the
detectives. They got an official badge. Exactly. They got an official badge and everything. They're the ones responsible for coming in, investigating crime, whether it's inmate crime, visitor crime, staff crime, any crime. So I wrote them, and I told them what I saw. I gave the date, time, location. I told them that I would be willing to talk to investigators. I told them to check the camera. The only one that responded to me was Special Investigations, and they told me this is not a matter for us to investigate, and they told me to address it with the regional office, and the regional office never, wrote me back. And it's crazy because I'm telling Special Investigations that I personally witnessed the crime happen here. You see what I'm saying? Wow. This man is clearly handcuffed. It's no reason for them people to put hands on him like that. You see what I'm saying? But these things, this is the norm there. This is the norm.
That's what I try to.
I remember. Listen, one of the. Then I'm sorry. I know you said you tried to listen. I only got like.
No. Keep going. I'm just gonna say I try to explain that to people out there, and they don't understand that people are these guys. They're getting away with crimes in here. The crimes against humanity, but just regular crimes as well.
Yeah. And let me tell you another thing. Listen, Wallens Ridge, like I said, I know this show is about Red Onion. There are bad things that happen at Red Onion too. But again, from my personal experiences, Wallens Ridge is worse than Red Onion. I remember it was an incident where you got staff bringing an inmate in, and he's talking crap to him. He is. And the procedure is when they put you in the cell, what happens is you're supposed to kneel down. They take the shackles off your feet, and then you crawl into the cell. They close the door behind you. Then you stand up, and then they open up the slot. you take your handcuffs, they undo your handcuffs that way through the slot. But in this case right here, when they got the guy to the cell, they went and pushed him into the cell. But they're holding on to him though. But they push him into the cell, and then they make it seem as if he, ran them into the cell. You see what I'm saying? As if he pulled them into the cell. So when they get in there, I personally watched them beat the man. They picked him up and put his head into the toilet, and one of them started flushing the toilet bowl, toilet, and talking about something, you like that, boy? He's screaming, you like that? You like that? Talk that shit now. You see what I'm saying? I
Mm.
have seen another incident. I have seen, okay, you have Officer Hale. There's a guy named Officer Hale. There's a guy named Officer Johnson. They work the SEG. So I remember one day they bring a guy to SEG. It's like 15 COs. At the time I don't know what he did. They have the handheld camera on scene, but it's turned off. They sit the man, he's at the cell next to me. He's probably about 2 feet from me. So they sit him down on the ground, and one of the Officer Hill specifically, is choking him. He got him in a headlock. Meanwhile, everybody else, all the other staff are just standing there, just talking. The camera is not open or nothing. So I remember Officer Hill looking up at me, smiling. He had this maniacal smile on his face, and I looked at him and I just shook my head. I didn't say nothing. I just shook my head. And about 30 seconds later, Officer Johnson, he comes out of the security office, and he says to the Sergeant Roberts, he says, "We good, move." And I watched him go and punch the guy in the face. He punched him. He punched him about 6 times in the face. Then he took his knuckles and started hitting him in the scalp, and then he started kicking him to the body while Hale is choking him. Meanwhile, you got 2 nurses. You got a nurse Mullins, and you have a nurse Harper. They are watching in the distance, and Harper is laughing.
Mm.
So when they get done, they lift him up. He's handcuffed from behind. They lift him up by his wrist. They lift his entire body up. And that puts pressure on your shoulders. You can break your shoulders that way. So they lift him up, and then they take him in a cell and they strip search him. And then they strip search him down to his boxers. Now I can't see this, but I know they strip search him because I see the clothes getting thrown out. So once they end up securing him in the cell, Nurse Mullins comes up, and I hear her say, "You all right?" And he says, "Hell no, I'm hurting like hell. You see, I'm bleeding." And she goes and she's writing in his notes, and she says, "Well, what I can try to do is tell him to give you Motrin, but I can't make him do it. I'm gonna prescribe it, but I don't know if they're gonna give it to you." And she was like, "I don't see anything really wrong with you that requires you to go to medical, so you're just gonna stay back here." And that was that. Like, they didn't feed the man for the rest of the day. When they brought the trays in, they just walked straight on by his door. They didn't stop. They didn't ask me for one. They just rolled right on by his door and came to my room and gave me food. The man takes medications.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay, 1 minute. So the man takes psych meds, and they didn't even give him that. Like, I remember him telling the people, like, "I'm hungry, where's my meds and stuff," and they told him, "Fuck you," straight up. Excuse my language, but that's what they say. And it's crazy. Inmates, they resort to, like, in this case, they set themselves on fire. Inmates do things like that just to try to get transferred off of there. I know a buddy that set himself on fire at Wallens Ridge just to force a transfer.
I have 2 statements to read from people that one person, their microphone is messed up, and one person, they're driving.
Okay.
One of them is from, we'll call them T, because I don't want any backlash, but she says, "My husband has been in RHU, which is solitary at Red Onion, 21 days. Oh no, she said Wallens Ridge is worse. So I think that he's at Wallens Ridge. No, that's right. Okay. He's at Wallens Ridge. "My husband has been in RHU 21 days. It's about 100 men up there, freezing, hungry, begging for help. Their food is moldy. I haven't talked to him in 17 days. Major King Gay Gardner had it so." Okay, so she's saying Major King had it so he was to not interact with him. Now he's on all restrictions. I'm sure this guy will know him. So Gay Gardner was an advocate, so Major King has made it so he can't even interact with an advocate. He was told by the major he would die up there in the mountains.
Wow.
And then if somebody else wants to talk, give me just 1 second. Let me get to the other one.
Thank you for that, Don.
While we're in that vacuum, I just applaud you guys for collating all these statements and messages from the inside over there. Our hearts go out to Red Onion and Virginia and all D.O.C. across the country. I mean, this is a corrupt institution that has built its back off the back of slavery and Jim Crow. And now here we are in modern day slavery. And that's how they get away with this. We're not human beings. We're not sons and daughters of this country. We're just slaves. We definitely applaud you for the work you guys are doing, you know?
Okay, so I have it. Thank you. This one is from Charles Pace. He wants me to use his name. He's so fed up with what he's gone through. He says, so I was at RRJ in 2021, and because I had done so much time in prison, I mentally did not and could not be around others, so I was placed in segregation. I pretty much was there until I got out into 2023 when I got out of jail. But while I was in prison from 2010 to 2019, I spent most of that time in segregation because of my behavior and not getting along with others because I was targeted by guys trying to rape me and wanted me to join gangs. Well, I was in seg. I went through things now no person should ever go through. While in seg, I was almost poisoned by a CO at Red Onion, and I was beaten several times by the guards, and several times I was forced on a bed and was tied down by the guards and had to go days without blankets and mattress because they put me on strip cell, just in boxers and nothing else for days. While one is in seg, you have to deal with loud noises for hours and sometimes for days, and in your cell 24/7, it's hard to get them to let you out to go outside. Your rights and privileges are gone, and once in segregation, the guards and staff believe you should get nothing and be treated like shit. Being in segregation has caused me to not sleep well, can't be in small spaces, can't be around people. I'm on the streets now, and I still suffer from all this and more from my time being locked up in jail and prison. I do not trust people, and one standing where I can't see them because guards have attacked me from behind. All this has caused me to not keep jobs and ruin relationships. I don't sleep or want anyone around me. Charles Pace.
Don,
Wow.
thank you so much for getting that. Just to background, and Don, I'm about in tears. Charles Pace is a dear friend of mine, and I'm so glad that he was able to get that out because we have been speaking for near a year, and he was so terrified to speak. And he is suffering on the street without, and that's that normal reentry that doesn't get talked about enough. It's breeding our homeless drastically and at terrifying measures. This guy's he's a good man. He's part, it's that same, school to prison pipeline, foster system, trauma. We failed him then, we're failing him now, and we're still turning cheek. Don, I'm so sorry. I'm just really emotionally moved right now because I hadn't heard the final draft. Thank you for amplifying that.
Absolutely. And then not to take away any attention from Red Onion. In fact, I think maybe Kevin could weigh in with his stories too, but a lot of what we're talking about right now is also stuff that I've heard is happening to in Prince William County Jail. So I just wanted to mention that the jails are just as bad because they're just as unregulated, if not worse. But I think Red Onion is very dangerous and Wallens Ridge is very dangerous because they're up there in the mountains. So it's like it would be a hike even for family to go and see you and see what's going on. But I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Thank you for mentioning, he leads a lot of advocacy and a lot of communications and passionate as well. Say hi, Kevin.
Hey, I want to jump in real quick. Just something about Dawn said about the jails. I don't think many people realize, because I did not until I met with Delegate Henson this morning. There is going to be an oversight bill this year to have a committee set up to oversee the regional jails in Virginia. Currently, there is none. they monitor themselves. And like I said, Delegate Henson is introducing a bill to provide oversight. And I think that's something we need to talk about more. And I think that's something as advocates that we need to join in and help, show up at General Assembly and help any way we can to make sure that bill is successful in
I have
passing.
questions about that because I'm working, I have a colleague in Washington, and then I'm working with a lot of people in Georgia, unfortunately. And they both have ombudsmen. Washington's ombudsman is now corrupt. Georgia
I
is the most
know.
horrible state, and
Yeah.
they have an ombudsman. So I think it needs to be very carefully done. However, there's oversight because there is technically an oversight board. There's the Board of Virginia Regional Jails, and if you look, they are supposed to be in charge of regulating the jails. The board director gets paid $200,000 a year, and all the people under him get paid beyond that. I believe he that's his yearly salary, and I think he also gets an additional stipend for being the leader of the board. And they do nothing. They don't do anything. Like if you ask them to do anything, they won't do it. But they do technically exist. So I feel like they should be disbanded before we create something else. But if it's coming through the state, I don't have much faith in it. I think it needs to be an outside, like,
The thing
That's
with that,
exactly what in Washington State. That's one of the things that a lot of our community over here is trying to advocate for, having outside parties that are actual advocates, whether that's the Disability Rights Washington, the ACLU, something Columbia Legal Services, something that's an outside entity that has the actual interest of our people that are incarcerated at heart, rather than somebody that's being paid to gloss over everything that happens within D.O.C. So you're right. That's definitely something that needs to be addressed when we speak to those with power. That you can't just have an ombuds name on it, and then they're really just glorified correction officers. They're there to like defend the actions of D.O.C.
right.
but even outside, and this is a whole nother conversation. When I lived in Pennsylvania, I was a prison monitor with the Pennsylvania Prison Society. Pennsylvania is one of only 3 states that actually have outside oversight.
Mm.
And a lot of the monitors are just as corrupt.
Yeah.
The issue
Wow.
is not just with needing outside oversight, we need oversight that has teeth, that can actually do something to force D.O.C. to follow recommendations. I was a prison monitor for years. I worked with a lot of individuals. And the thing is, and I was always, I've been in this work for over 10 years. The thing that I ran into, my own personal experience, is nobody had to listen to me. They had to read my report, they had to read my recommendations, but D.O.C. did not have to follow it. And if they didn't, there was no consequences. And that is the problem. And that's going to be an issue in Virginia as long as we don't hold them accountable, because there's no teeth.
I just want to say one thing to respond to that, and I do want to hear from Kevin because I know he's got statements waiting. But Jennifer, do you think in that legislation that they're creating that there's a way to write it in there that, they will be like the D.O.C. or the jails, they will be held accountable for following or not following recommendations, including criminally?
I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm going to meet with Delegate Henson again prior to session. Our meeting today wasn't about that. That just kind of came up. So
Where
we're
I
going
feel
to.
like if you can get it passed, then the next year you can get, and and if you don't follow the regulations, then you can get prosecuted.
Yeah.
I think
So
we definitely should work towards it.
No, and to add to that, as a jailhouse lawyer, I can tell you that if you create a report and then allow the jailhouse lawyers in that state the copy of the report, and then when they see the violation, they can litigate, because now that's a breach of duty. because they've been notified that they're doing this and they're not remedying the duty. They have a duty to remedy that hazard, whatever the report's on. So look at that angle as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
Even though
I agree.
that,
And I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make sure Kevin got in real quick. I don't know if he was short on time or what, but we can circle back in just a moment to that because I think that's important on a civil level. I think we need to be bringing awareness to these reports that aren't being, proper oversight. But anyway, Kevin, please go ahead. If you'll share your messages.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And much respect and love to Jennifer Dalton. And I really hope everyone on this call and everyone who hears this message will donate to the Virginia Justice Alliance and support Jennifer's righteous mission. Several years
Thank
ago,
you.
Jennifer helped me start a mental health peer-to-peer support group in this space. I was in a very bad place mentally and struggling with, some serious things, bipolar, unaliving, that kind of stuff. And Jennifer helped me put together a group of men that have been my support group for the last 3 years and have become like family to me. So, first and foremost, there is who spent 40 years in lockdown, solitary confinement, and he's been up for parole and denied. He's on geriatric parole right now. He's never harmed a woman or child. He's never taken a life. And he's also an elder that testifies to all of this prison abuse, medical neglect, and CO brutality is accurate. He spent 20 years and he opened Red Onion. I also speak on behalf of who opened Red Onion and has spent close to 30 years in solitary confinement. He is up for parole. He robbed some convenience stores when he was a teenager, and now he's looking at dying in prison because the parole board also will not let him out with a less than 1% parole rate. I talk to him daily. He prays for me daily. He sends me tons of emails from Greensville that, yes, is very dangerously short-staffed where the nurses are doing counts. Greensville is deplorable, but testifies that the CO brutality, prison abuse, and medical neglect is real, and he spent 20 years up there. Also, AKA, his name is. He has a very large lawsuit that hopefully will make its way to the Supreme Court on solitary confinement, and spent 40 years himself in solitary at Red Onion before being sent in retaliation to Texas. Confirms that the medical neglect, prison abuse, and CO brutality and racism is true. These men have been called the N-word over decades. And daily I hear from individuals that are experiencing current CO brutality and medical neglect and prison abuse. Right now is being chained to a table so tightly he cannot even scratch his forehead. He's losing 20 pounds a week because of the commissary. And a new lieutenant at Red Onion is not letting anybody have phone access, no kiosk access for up to 2 years. Jennifer Dalton is the only hope these men have. And they have told me that they have not unalived themselves, just hoping this message reaches her. Your work is so important, Jennifer, and I want you to know that. There's other individuals several weeks ago was put on his knees, handcuffed, and brutalized by COs, and his phone and tablet privileges were taken away as well. Was accused of taking a paintbrush, and he was verbally abused by 2 COs and fired. He's the one person that I thought was making rehabilitative progress up there. And he has a setback where he's just treated like he's scum. It's so disheartening. I write Warden Anderson daily, asking for, small courtesies out of respect. And instead, they're just retaliating more and more against the men that did the hunger strike in January. And they're certainly retaliating on Ekong. He's currently being threatened with being sent out of state. He's not being allowed phone access and also not being allowed kiosk access. And he's the gentleman that set himself on fire. Emails take 14 days from him to get to me. And in those emails, he cries out for help. And our biggest thing is just trying to make sure that he doesn't commit suicide up there. But the officers are using extreme retaliatory action in each and every one of these situations. The interstate compact agreement being used for retaliation is terrible. And I just think these men really, really need the help of everyone who's on this call. And anything that you guys can do to support Jennifer would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, we appreciate this, and we at Defund D.O.C. we're really thankful that you guys allowing us to be a part of your guys' story over there in Virginia and all the other states that you were mentioning. because that's what we told Melissa as well. Man, we want to be in the trenches with you and amplify your voices so that more people can be woken up to the corrupt system that we have today, you know?
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. I'm getting some context into the chat. Marva, did you want to talk any more about what on your end? And then Fatima, if you want to chime in about anything with humanization or PESC, please do. Anybody else? Marva, you still with us? Do you want to talk? Okay. Or Fatima, are you there? Do you want to, is she still in? Yeah, Fatima, do you want to say anything about humanization? I know there's different calls to action for humanization stories, different things with, public, sorry, Public Education Steering Committee. We do powerful one pages for events, for radical awareness, educating our way to justice. Fatima, you want to pick up on any of that?
Greetings, everybody. I apologize, I wasn't prepared for this gathering tonight, but the Humanization Project is working on the Red Onion crisis, so to bring more awareness to it, and in attempts for the Black Caucus to get out and actually visit the facility. They had plans on doing that, but I don't know what changed those plans. So we're hoping that they will be popping out periodically, because there's several members of the Black Caucus that are planning to go out there. So we hope that will happen to show more support for those at Red Onion. As always, the Humanization Project is always looking to humanize any stories. So if anybody wants to tell loved ones, they can share those stories either through our social media platform, our email addresses, or our website. We definitely want to highlight that, and working along with newspapers and such. You guys will definitely see some posts out there about requesting for that information. And as always, anything that comes across, we try to share it on our platform so that we can spread the word.
Awesome.
Thank you, Fatima.
The Humanization Project is, so this is a grassroots thing where you basically post people's story from those that are incarcerated to humanize them, or can you kind of elaborate for the audience what exactly the mission statement is?
Well, the Humanization Project humanizes those that are behind the walls, as well as anybody that is impacted by the criminal justice system in the state of Virginia. That would include people that are coming out on reentry, people in the jails or the prison, as well as their family members and the survivors of crime. So that is in a nutshell what we do.
Awesome. Absolutely. And then I applaud you for giving space to all victims of the system, not just the victims on the other side, but the victims of the incarcerated. You know, they have been deprived of their loved ones, separated by bars and walls and all these systems. So thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
I just got a message from our caller earlier, and he said he would like me to read this. It's short. He just said, let it be known that they trap you at those two prisons by giving you infractions, fabricated or not. Infractions will keep you up there. When you have your annual review, the counselor will tell you that you cannot transfer because of the charge. They say you need to show more stable adjustment. A minor charge will even keep you there. And that's all he said.
Yeah. Was that Melissa that said that?
No, that was Dawn.
Okay.
That was
yeah.
our
So
caller.
I speak on that all the time on the podcast. They are using infractions like psychological whips to keep the slaves where they want them and under their boot, and it's an atrocity, because it's not about rehabilitation. It's not about any kind of educational type thing. I mean, how does you go into solitary confinement help me to rehabilitate, to reentry, to any of that? You know what I mean? It's very wicked, and that he hit the nail on the head. They use those infractions as a way to keep people where they want to keep them, and it's a real tragedy.
Says, yes, this is correct. I lost my train of thought. You guys go ahead.
I wish there was a way for me to change my name. Can you please call me Green?
Yeah,
Yeah, because look, like I was just talking to, was it Donna? Like what I'm saying right now is my old man really does not want me speaking his name on here. He has wrote me in a letter telling me to just don't speak his name because of some of the stuff that is going on in Red Onion. He has been
Isn't
witnessing a
that
lot.
crazy?
He wants to come out.
Yeah, they're scared. People are scared. That's why it's like, it's crazy. But go ahead.
Right.
I understand I understand where he's coming from.
Right. We're from Illinois, and he's only been there since February 2023, and he has witnessed so much stuff. And he said he just doesn't want to catch a case inside of Virginia right now because he said the way these CEOs are coming at inmates is ridiculous. These CEOs have no kind of accountability. They're lazy. They don't get up and do their jobs. They're leaving these inmates inside these showers for over 5 hours. He's even to the point where he's taking bird baths in his cell instead because he doesn't want to get locked up in there.
yeah.
They're not
Yeah,
cleaning up.
I did
They're
that.
not cleaning up in there. They're taking these brushes that are already filled with feces and just going into the shower and scrubbing down with these brushes. Like I got all these letters.
Oh,
But the thing is we are trying to be careful because somebody is listening in. Now, I'm not saying here, but somebody's listening in and finding out stuff, finding out what inmates are saying what, and they're going back and they're retaliating on these inmates.
wow.
Yep. Megan was
I
just
Well,
was
mentioning.
just for those listening, if it's a prison administrator, a politician, or anybody in any kind of form of power over prisoners that have been spoken about today, just know that if we find at Defund D.O.C. that somebody has been retaliated against for exercising their freedom of speech, we will pursue civil action, a civil rights complaint over that immediately. Just want to put that caveat out there. We have lawyers that are helping us with cases against corrupt D.O.C. officers that retaliate. So just want to put that out there. Go ahead.
Thank you for that.
I was just pointing out to our solitary committee when we were talking about it that we don't need these supermax prisons. The reason that they're doing these little tactics of keeping people in solitary is just to feed their own narrative. We don't need this level of supermax. We don't need supermax at all. I would jump out there to say, because the reason that we have contracts with West Virginia and I don't know which other state, we have contracts with 2 other states to bring people with lesser charges to Red Onion for money. You know why? Because they have empty cells. And also, they bring people, I have a friend there that should be in a medium security prison. His sister is working desperately to move him, but he's there because they needed to move him somewhere, so they moved him there because they had empty space. But these little tactics of keeping people in solitary, it shouldn't be happening anyway. Solitary shouldn't be happening anyway. We don't need these supermax prisons. They're just doing these, oh, let me put you back in the hole. Let me put you back in the hole to prove their own narrative. But we don't need any of this.
Absolutely, and just to add to that, in Washington, they've actually proven what you just said. They had supermax in virtually every prison in the state, and the legislators were starting to wake up to how debilitating solitary was, rewiring our people's brains so that they couldn't barely even function when they got out. So what they did is now basically nobody goes to solitary unless it's an emergency. I guess currently the max time that you can be in solitary now is up to like 14 days currently in Washington State, unless it's some kind of extreme violence or whatnot. But that just proves to what you just said. They had supermax. I literally did almost 5 years in solitary confinement. I literally bird bath days after days after months after months because I hated going out and having to deal with the officers walking me around with a dog leash and treating me like I was this Hannibal Lecter or something, when in reality I'm just a regular person just like anybody else, and I should be treated fairly, and so should everybody at Virginia. In Virginia and all this super maxes they got across the country. So thank you for pointing that out. That's an absurdity. The way that like you said, it's self-fulfilling. They say they need it because people are violent, but the solitary makes people more violent. So it's like it's a vicious cycle.
I keep hearing all these stories from people about what they did to be there. Like one person I talked to, I don't have a statement or anything, but just over messages. He's in there now for a crime he committed underage. And it's like that is
That's
insane to me. Like, how can we be doing this to our American people? It makes no sense. It's like we're in a very like feudal barbarian country, and we're supposed to have the most human rights, but we don't.
No, we don't, and that's the thing that we spoke on with Melissa the other day. It's like, why are the human rights organizations not more engaged with the United States? Why do I mean, we have more people incarcerated in this country than any other country on the face of the planet, yet they barely ever speak on the injustices that is happening right under their own watch, their own soil. I mean, the systemic slavery, the systemic torture of solitary confinement, the systemic incarceration of our children, like it's just ugly. And why are you ignoring it?
I can tell you why, but that's a whole rabbit hole too. I mean,
Don,
it's because of
I'm sorry.
money.
I wanted to speak
It's
real
about
fast.
money, yeah.
I was just telling Linda I was going to speak up. Can everybody hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay. So as for the person being a minor, my old man has been in there's locked up since he was 18 years old for two other people's crime that they did in his vehicle. The state of Illinois turned around and said he was the mastermind, which he wasn't. He was 18, saying that he had to say so over two adults of what they were going to do and what they did. My old man has been in prison for 25 years at this point in time. He's still facing another
Oh my
25
gosh.
unless the state of Illinois passes some of these bills or unless somebody somehow gets into his case and tries to help us get home. We are, like I said before, in the chat, we are from a very poor family. We're very, very tight on what we can do and what he can spend. So things have been very, very rough for us. I have been reaching out to a lot of people. I've wrote letters, I've wrote petitions out, trying to remotely get him help. At this point in time, I just came back into his life about 4 years ago. I've known him since we were 13. I've known about the case since we were kids. I was never asked to go testify because if I would have been able to testify in court, I would have got him out most definitely because I know what was said about the situation. But the thing is like I said, he's been in there since he was 18, and he is now going to be 44 here on the 29th. So
Wow, that's
25
sad.
years sitting in there for somebody else's doing, and they keep on trying to tell him, well, we want you to say this. We want you. He said, I'm not taking no plea deal. I'm not doing none of that because I knew nothing about the situation. I didn't know what they did. And now the state of Illinois at this point in time transferred him over to Virginia for a ticket that was unfounded and they could not prove, and they still used that ticket after it was expunged. Illinois has denied him to be transferred back to this state at this point in time, told him to try again next year in October. He is trying to appeal this situation at this point in time because Illinois should have never removed him from the state of Illinois when he doesn't have any other cases anywhere else, not in Virginia, nowhere else, just in the state of Illinois since he's been 18. But they transferred him on some illegal tickets, and he's been trying to fight with them. So I just wanted to state that real
Yeah, I
fast.
think that's thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's an abuse. Just what you just spoke on is called diesel therapy, and they move you around to different states. They'll move you around within the state depending on how many prisons they got, which in Washington is quite a bit. So I've been to like every prison in the state like 5 times. So that's literally 40 different transfers within the state of Washington. And that's not including all the different cells they moved me to. you can imagine how you have to reestablish yourself within the prison population, amongst inmates, how you have to reestablish yourself amongst the guards. Like, it's so traumatic, and they act like it's no big deal. They can just move you with unfounded allegations and all these other things that you just spoke on. It's absurd. So keep doing what you're doing, even with no funds. I would recommend creating a change.org. I would recommend contacting the Bar Association in your state for pro bono attorneys that might, and then just start rallying them. You know what I mean? Start,
your wife Linda is aware that I have a petition on change.org. At this point in time, I noticed that we only have 147 signatures since the 3rd, I think is when I started it. So I've been trying to find everything. I'm all new to this. So, me writing what petition I did, I'm very proud of myself because I didn't know I knew how to do something, so.
You're a warrior. You guys are on the front line, and I'm in prison, but the people that I most admire are the ones that are out there on the front line that are gonna get out there, because we can't. A lot of the times, like you said, someone said they couldn't put somebody's name on the podcast because of the retaliations. That's a real thing. That's an absolute 100% real thing. The people are going to be treated badly or harassed or infracted or beat down, and so you definitely you're doing God's work. And I promise, like I tell everyone that's on this journey, that you're on the right side of history. I promise you that. 100 years from now, maybe longer. Who knows how long it's going to take? Maybe 20 years. Who knows? But there's going to be a time when people are going to look back, and you guys, the ones that are out here on these podcasts, are going to be immortalized for the work you're doing today. This is a real civil rights struggle that we're under, that we're dealing with today. So, like you said, you didn't know what you had inside you, but you're going to find it with this journey.
Green Butterfly, I am doing a feature this month called "'Tis the Season for Petitions." So if you send me your change.org, I can try to push it out.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can do that. Actually,
nice.
If you go on to Linda's comments where she does her posts, you'll see that I'm up there. You'll see that's my profile on Facebook.
I'll reshare the petition as well for you.
Okay, thank you.
Was that Melissa that
No.
said that 'tis the season for the petition, to sign a petition? Who said that?
Done.
It's so hard.
That was awesome. Why? We should literally. Is that a thing out there, or is that not? Is that like?
It's a thing on American Felon because I made it up because I was getting people were just mass sending them to me, and I'm like, I want to sign these, but is my one signature gonna help? I need to focus them each, so that's my solution for now.
Wow, I like it. I wonder if we can start a thing, like how like all these holidays that people start. Like, I think if we started really promoting the fact that a certain day in December is sign a petition day or whatever. Yeah. I wonder if that could be something that we could really try to push out there.
Or just every day in December.
That's what I'm trying to do, but it's hard for me to do it every day. But I have a list. I actually have a list of.
Yeah, I've had a few people reach out to me recently with petitions, so I share them as I get them. But it's really hard to get the signatures.
They get overwhelming, which is why it's good to do one at a time and push it out to everywhere. If we, even in this group, if we did that and we all shared it amongst our networks, it would be even multiplied.
Yeah, I have it all over TikTok. I have it all over Instagram, Twitter. I even signed up for a Twitter. Always said I'm never going to have a Twitter. So now I have a Twitter. I'm just like Zoom. This is the first time I've done Zoom. I'm just like, what am I doing?
No, that's awesome. We applaud you. We got Linda. When do you expect ours to be coming out? We got one too. I mean, we currently got an attorney. We got an attorney working on my clemency and resentencing now. I've been in prison 20 years. Nobody even got severely hurt in my case, and so we're trying to fight for clemency right now.
And technically, you have how many more years to go? if you
14 more years. So who knows if I'll make it out of here in 14
You're
more
going to
years.
make it. You're going to, no, you are going to make it. Don't say that. You are going to make it. That's
Yeah, I
what you're
know.
going to. I'm going to make
trust
it.
me, I affirm that, you know what I mean? But yeah, I work out and I try to stay in shape, but both my parents died before the age of 60 and my release date is 59. So it's worrisome. It's a genuine concern, you know? So I like that. 'Tis the season to sign a petition. Linda, we really need to push that one. That's a good
I can
good one to
probably
push. I think.
yeah, I can probably have yours ready by this weekend because I have all the information I need.
You know, I wanted to like reach back on what you were saying, Daniel, about this is the time for change, because it's like if you look at discrimination in the US, it's like, you know, we all know that this incarceration system is how we've funneled slavery, but everything else has been made illegal. It's illegal to be racist. It's illegal to be gender conformist. Like you can't discriminate against women. You can't discriminate against other genders. The last group of people to have rights, other than children, are felons. It's the only group of people that it's legal to discriminate against. You have people that get out. Well, I mean, you see the way that we treat people in the D.O.C., and then you see when we get out, you can't apply for housing, you can't apply for food stamps, you can't, you know, like it limits your jobs, it limits everything, and it's legal, and that's what else we need to change. But I do believe that this is the time.
No, I think that's 100% right. I wrote a blog about what you're speaking on, and it's a form of like back in the day, pre-Civil War, they made you carry around slave papers to prove so that you could so that they knew who you were and whatnot. And today, the slave papers are felons. That's what the way that they keep us on the plantation is through the felon, the keeping that records and whatnot. And you know what's crazy is that it's actually explicitly forbidden in the U.S. Constitution to use past crimes to doubly punish people. And if you actually follow it by the verbatim wording of the Constitution, they're not allowed to do that. But they've done it in virtually every single state, using past crimes to doubly enhance or to charge, to increase sentences and whatnot on people's sentences. So yeah, there's a lot to what you said. And you're right. They discriminate on people's workplace and housing and all different aspects of life. So it is the one area that we need to like actually push legislation and see if that would actually, you know, I think a lot of people would be supporting it. Man, especially nowadays, it's like so many Americans have been either themselves incarcerated or have a felony or know somebody. Like there's so many people, you know, and I think the tide is going to start changing. I mean, it just got to. I mean, eventually it's going to be like a tipping point, you know.
I think we
It's either
definitely
gonna
will
be
see that wave. Just the last few years, you know, the awareness of what's going on inside it's there. It's in the news, and now, you know, Virginia specifically, anyway. You know, these big news lines don't normally take on, you know, the D.O.C. stuff. So for us to get there, I think it is go time. I think it's go time everywhere because all these things are going on, you know, in every single state.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, ladies, and for the audience, how did it feel for you seeing the doors being open in these Syrian prisons for political prisoners? Because I view our people in this country as political prisoners, every single one of them. Because if you're coming from a political standpoint of fairness and justice, then you wouldn't be having these harsh sentences, these draconian. So they're political. It's all political, you know. And so when you're seeing these people's doors being opened up and people being let out of prison, for me personally, it made me almost tear up. Like I wish that there'd be a time when the people would fight for all the Americans across the country, you know, and start opening doors, whether that's through the political process or whatnot. You know, it's just. To see how they were rushing to open the gates for the people in prison and embrace them. It touched my heart, and I was just curious how it affected you all out there.
Got quiet.
I'm sitting here typing with green butterfly, but I don't really watch the news, but I didn't like it. I mean, I liked it, but I'm like, you guys, again, it goes back to money. It's just like they don't want to do that because there goes their money.
Yeah, I know. It is a sad situation. Regardless of how much it costs us on the back end, though, because people are coming right back. The D.O.C.
They don't care. They want it. They want it that way. That's what's really frustrating is they want it that way because they're making money off of it.
Yep.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's
that was the
costing
plan.
us, but it's not costing the elites, the people that are really making money. It's not costing them.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that was totally part of the plan, I believe. That's systemic genocide, in my opinion. But
And it's not
That's
just
exactly
genocide,
right.
it's population control. Well, that's genocide, but it's also extortion. It's modern day extortion.
You have 1
Because
minute
not
left.
only is, not only are you being paid for to be in prison, like your family shouldn't have to send you anything. It doesn't cost money to make a phone call. It shouldn't cost your family money for you to get a jacket. They already have the money for that. It's another way of double extorting us, just like taxes.
well, and then our families and communication, all of it, all the way around for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if they were doing this, and I don't speak to this, if they were doing these practices on the street, they would be literally incarcerated. They would be jailed if they were doing these practices to our people on the street. But for some reason, if you're incarcerated, you don't deserve to be treated like a fair human being. Like you can't get a regular phone plan, you can't get a regular. I mean, they won't even tell us. They're selling us these like ineffective property items, so you have to keep buying them over and over again.
The quality of the stuff that he was talking about, those earbuds, I think I have to buy him like 2 pairs, at least 2 pairs a month, and they don't even last.
You know why?
Yeah, he's so blessed to be able to have that too. Just the amount. I know there's some guys that don't even get a soup, and that the drastic, like what it costs us on the outside to support the inside is it's painful. I mean, I had it take me under one time years and years ago, because you got to connect with your loved ones in there because that's all they have. What I'd like to do, I know some of us are like in the same space. A lot of us work on different coalitions together. I think that with the news that we've gotten, the attention, the Black Caucus, all of the things, all the organizations are working on big things right now. And we just need everybody sharing everything that everybody's doing. We need to talk about it, share it to your community groups that are non-justice impacted, because a lot of people aren't part of those groups because they still don't know we exist. Start talking about the school to prison pipeline, because that's where you can get some of your community, because we got kids that we're in trouble out here right now. Not only what they're going on with their parents inside Red Onion or wherever else, but what they're going through in school is really scary. And the pipeline is in full effect, just as it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. And it's getting worse. And the youth sentencing, there's stuff being passed where it's heavier now. And, we continue to fight that. I just encourage everybody, there has been some, not competition issues, but, just share everybody's stuff. There's enough crisis to go around for all of us to handle, and we all have specialties and focuses and skills that can help one another continue to platform and rise. There is going to be a rally in 2025, and that'll be coming after session, because I know we'll all be slammed till then. But just share. If somebody's live, if somebody has a podcast, if it's a news story on this, sometimes the shock factor's got to get out too. So wherever you're comfortable, please just keep talking about it, keep elevating.
And I usually post updates before we do something like this, like a podcast where everybody can get on. I'm going to stop using Blog Talk, but until I find out a different platform, I'll be probably just using Zoom here. So we do we do one of these every Wednesday evening. So anytime anybody wants to join, it's open.
That's awesome. And I encourage anybody who has any ideas for what are some of our focus advocacy right now, right? We know Red Onion, we know the ones that I mentioned, but if in your organization or your personal advocacy ventures or your loved one, what's the impact? What's the facility? And who else is going through it? So we can build these advocacy cases for each and every one of us. So it's going to take a little while with Red Onion, but we're going to come. We all know we're coming for the rest of them,
Um,
and we just want to engage our families as much as possible.
I did mention in the comments earlier, in the state of Illinois, they have a prison called Lawrence Correctional Center here. I was informed by a family friend who called me today, and I was explaining to him about what was going on at Red Onion, and he turned around and he told me MJ, because that's what they call me. He said, us too. I said, what do you mean?
Yeah,
He said
exactly.
there has been for the last 2 weeks of people in here catching themselves on fire, and
Mhm.
they're not leaking it out. They're not telling anybody about it right now.
Oh
He
yeah, it took
said
3 months here, 3 months to
he
get attention to it.
Mhm.
yeah, he said that they have been putting people in the hole for no reason. One of our friends just got put in the hole just because he didn't want his food. Um, and he
Mhm.
said the reason he didn't want his food is because the food was not to the standards of being able to eat it because it was rotten.
Not for
Well,
human.
they didn't like it. They put him in the hole. But he said at in Illinois at Lawrence Correctional Center, there's been some issues. I did hear there has been some issues going on back and forth at like money as well. Um, Also, our representative, Barbara Hernandez, here in the state of Illinois, who's been trying to work on this, it's called the HB 5219 bill in the state of Illinois to reduce sentencing for inmates. Um, she has run into a issue at her office. Her employer they had got some mail, and her employer was in contact with some kind of substance that got her very, very sick. So
Mm.
that is what's been going on here in Illinois. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. That's why I hear everybody talk about this state, this state. I've heard in California there's been issues. There's a prison in
Oh wow.
Colorado, Texas. I mean, I've been hearing so much, but Illinois, like I said, I do know for a fact, because like I said, I did get that phone call yesterday, and he did inform me that there has been inmates inside of Lawrence Correctional Center that has been catching themselves on fire.
And MJ, if you could actually reach out to me after the show, I have a leader in Illinois on both sides on personal advocacy and political advocacy. So I'd love to connect you guys with them. We're actually eventually over the next like 3 months, we're looking for like regional leaders to kind of head awareness campaigns. You know, Oklahoma, Illinois, Pennsylvania, the Carolinas, Florida, Georgia. What's going on in Georgia is coming our way, is what's going to happen. You know, now they don't even give you the cause of death, and it's
Mm.
coming our way. We didn't pay attention to Compton. We didn't pay attention to O Block. We didn't pay attention to when it started in Georgia. They literally went from zero, next to zero crime rates in some towns,
I'm
and
walking up
literally
here
almost
on a.
overnight. Yeah.
Well, most definitely let me know, because I actually have another girl that I'm talking to too. I forgot the name of her site that she just started up with her and her man too. But I sent her this link to try to get her to come in. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like she's coming in at all. But we are definitely trying to find whatever help we can get, just to even try to get, even like I said, this bill passed. This bill should have already been in House. It should have already been passed last year. For some reason, the HB 5219 is just sitting around, and we're not liking it. We're trying to get it to get done. It's like I said, it should have been already done. These prisoners should have already been released. If this bill does get passed correctly, from what my old man told me, is that he was told that he should be out within the year of 2026 if this bill gets passed, or
And
otherwise he's going to sit there for another 25 years.
and I just want to, you know, on that, because Virginia just had something with earned sentence credits, where you know legislation did get passed, and then our governor halted. Men were expecting this. They were holding on to this hope. They knew they were getting out. And Governor Youngkin here in Virginia, he put a hold on that for quite some time. We finally just released 1,000 in July, and still doing it for more time. But that's the thing, you know, prepare them for that. We're push for that. We'll share about that. but also prepare them that they have their village. They have their village, their dots are connected, and they tried to spread us out as much as possible and distract us. We've got to connect every state and the power self-harming incidences, the tragic ones. All of it's tragic, but we just that all of it matters for every state. We need to show that every state, hey, it's not just somebody making up stories. This is what their village does. It was based in slavery. Now it's based in profiteering on the slavery. And it's been the demise of our country without us knowing and recognizing it for lifetimes. And we
Are
just
you
can't,
guys familiar? I don't know if I'm saying his name right. His name is Taiwan Downing. Are you
oh,
guys familiar?
Tanawa Downing.
Yes.
That I will say that I follow him. I know he's radical in the sovereignty and color code of color stuff, or however that's
Right.
worded. Um, I believe in anybody who wants to go out and make change and gather the masses to realize that it's the government that's taken us down. They're not for us in any way. I don't personally support the movement, but I follow and encourage.
Okay, yeah, because he has told me that he could get my own man out, and I just told him, like I told him, well, if you think you can do that, then you need to message him. I said, you
Yeah, and you know what? That's possible. He's from Virginia himself. He experienced some corruption. He was once CIA, and lost everything. He did some time in, came out. He did a lot of studying in the sovereignty and what it is, color of law, color code of color, whatever it is. He's got a lot of knowledge. However, it's not something to count on because he hasn't freed anybody yet, right? And he might, and maybe he has some information that we can use, and we have some information he can use, and we can rise together. Visionaries are important. Visionaries are important.
I definitely did share this out to him, and I did tell him he might want to get in here, step in here, and maybe he could try to, listen in a little bit more of what's really going on, because I was trying to tell him, I'm like, look, if you have contacted my old man, I said, they're on lockdown. I said, they've been on lockdown since Friday the 6th. And I said, we're not going to hear from them until maybe the 15th, if not the 17th, if we're lucky. I said, I'm going crazy as it is, not being able to hear from him. And I said, I want to make sure that you have contacted him to let me know if you contacted him. He hasn't said nothing to me if he did or not. But I really hope he did, because my old man, he's tired. And what I mean by he's tired is that he has tried so many things, so many curves to try to get himself out of prison, even contacted so many people to help him to get out. And it's been nothing but dead ends. He's starting to, it's hard. It's hard. And I was hoping that, he would jump in here, at least listen to your guys' podcast, so he could get a little bit more information on what's really going on in there.
Yeah.
Keep telling him to join. I mean,
yeah, and he does he does have awareness. We worked on a coalition together that has since dissolved about the CPS and family court corruption stuff, and we've had conversations about the stuff going on, and he's experienced some of it too, some of the unjust, and he is big about the abolishing slavery piece too, the forced labor, and that's in every social market, whether that's foster care, even our our 40-hour work days, our 40-hour work weeks, the things. It's a form of slavery, but he's big about ending that inside the prison. I know that. But yeah, I mean, you feel joy in anything.
I have been listening to his I follow him on TikTok, I follow him on Facebook and YouTube. That might be something you might want to look into, though, too, Linda. Because that's one thing a lot of the podcasters have been doing. They've been trying to do it with TikTok. There is a gentleman who does one based out of California, and he somehow, I don't know how he has his connections and how it works for him, but he does have it to where the people can call in and everything as well. As soon as he's offline, I was already deciding that I was going to message him on TikTok to ask him, what are you using? I need to let this person know, because she needs this podcast, so.
Well, whatever we decide to use, we'll make sure it's something that we can have call-ins on. That's kind of the important part of why we were using Blog Talk in the first place, but it's definitely gotten too unreliable, and I cannot have an episode or an event scheduled like tonight's and then have it happen like that. I had a bad feeling it was going to happen, but I need something reliable.
Yeah, well, didn't they? You said they sent you an email, correct, saying that they were gonna disclose it in January?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the end the end of January is when it was supposed to shut down. Yeah.
Maybe they're already starting to have difficulties because of them trying to shut
Well,
down then.
yeah, unfortunately they just charged me on the 7th for this month. So
Yeah, it's not cheap
Ah,
either. I
no,
know.
it was like $100.
wow.
Yeah, and they won't give a refund. So yeah, but I mean, we'll probably just keep doing Zoom, and I'll post the links for every Wednesday evening still.
That
And
would be
Well,
awesome. And
yeah,
with you not being able to get connected twice in a row, they got to give you some kind of leverage off from that. That's
yeah,
ridiculous.
I know. I know. It was Melissa that I was trying to interview on there on, what was it, Sunday?
yeah,
Saturday, whatever it was. Oh, Sunday, yeah. So it was her that I was trying to interview, and it wasn't working then. So we recorded it. I've got to do a few edits to it still, and then I'll have that up on our website. But yeah, it's too, I mean, we had other people that were going to call in on Sunday, and then it just didn't work. So it's been a nightmare.
and other people are having connectivity issues. Florida was having issues with cell phones today.
I wonder.
Instagram was having problems.
Huh.
And then if anybody who's still on, if anybody, any organization, I don't, any social injustice organization, whether it's rights or the incarcerated, domestic violence, an SA,
Mhm.
child abuse awareness, neurodivergency, autism, IDD and DD, environmental justice, any of those organizations, just drop me, whether it's on a messenger, a text, I'll put my phone number out there, email, whatever it is. I want a list of everybody everywhere, because I'm going to send out mass communications about certain things after session.
Mhm.
And I just want to build a hub. I don't want people going to court alone. We want court advocates coming and just volunteering. Some people will pay you. Some people will pay you 20 to $150 just to go sit next to them in court, so they have a witness.
Mhm.
Uh, because we're losing our people to
Yes.
prosecutors. It's a foul system. They're all connected. It's all family. We know it's corrupt. We got to self-sustain. So I want to have a hub of a list of everybody everywhere who's doing something, so that way we can resource and rehabilitate ourselves as much as possible.
Mhm.
If somebody does a service, maybe we can barter our services for whatever, you know what I'm saying? However we can work it out. I just want to keep amplifying, keep sharing,
Yeah.
relating, promoting each other, whatever it is. Whatever it is, I just want to make sure we're rising together and continuing to elevate inside Virginia and abroad. Thank you for having everybody and everybody who was patient. I know we only got like 5 of us on right now. We were at 12. You know what? For a two for a technical issue, and then
Yeah.
we're sitting on at midnight
I
about this with
know.
5 people. That matters still. I'm
Yes.
still inspired, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I want to connect and resource. I also want to spread opportunities for volunteers.
Mhm.
I can funnel a lot of people to no matter what you want to do, what you love to do.
Mhm.
I can, or if you have 5 minutes, or if you can work every day, we'll have a place for you. We can help resource you to what you might need, because that's how we learn to teach others, right? We got to go through the hell that brings us to advocacy and freedom fighting, and then we share it with the others. So that's what I want to do. That's what I'm about. Also, anybody with anybody inside, a warrior within us has an expressive arts network. And well, I wouldn't say network, I'd say display first off, but it's about promoting those who are creative with their time, whether you're inside or just outside or what have you. We have books, artwork, music. We want to promote what everybody's doing to better themselves or to express themselves. And we have a film festival in February, and a couple groups, or not groups, but events coming after that. So thank you all. Whoever's left, and please reach out, and we'll figure out a way to start posting everything. I'm going to start posting updates and other organizations too on my Facebook page, A Warrior Within Us. So everybody have a great night. Thank you all.
Let me know if you need me to do anything. If anybody's listening, if you need us to help with anything, just let us know.
Awesome. Thank you. And our love to
Thank
Daniel.
you.
Everybody
Of
have a
course.
great night.
Good night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Start the longing, forgotten, threw away the key. Gone and forgotten, they forgot about me. Long and forgotten, threw away the key. Gone and forgotten, if I'm D.O.C. If I was you, I'd be asking for a refund. Everything they do for D.O.C, they need to defund. Lazy guards, double cells, everything in here is hell. You ever been to the county jail praying that you get some mail? Then you hit receive and all the stories, can't believe them. I thank God that I'm alive, I thank God that I'm still breathing. After COVID, wearing masks, everyone's sad. How did a virus know a budget? It really makes me laugh. We had good times, bad times, but still it made us strong. It was hard to be accountable, I had to right my wrongs. But now I'm long and forgotten, they forgot about me.